Welcome everybody who's watching us from YouTube. And I want you to mark your calendar for every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will have a 30-minute conversation with an industry expert on a variety of topics. Our goal at Cadre and Meeting Jobs is to give all the meeting and event professionals an opportunity to learn something new in this conversation, even if it's just one takeaway. So before we get started, let me share about who we are. Cadre is a really cool platform, and it's a service offering compliant, and I think the key word here is compliant gig economy freelancer staffing model. I want you to think about a platform for event and staff and independent contractors like an Uber and a LinkedIn with a marketing opportunity like Google. It's all mixed together and it works. Bottom line, if you're a hiring event staff, virtual event staff, or longer term meeting or event professional, Cadre is a great source for you to find that talent that's affordable and compliant. If you're a gig worker in our industry, this is your go-to place to find work. In fact, for gig workers, independent contractors, those in their own business, right now, Cadre is offering a 50% discount on the required background check. So don't hesitate. Now, Meeting Jobs offers an industry-specific job board, as well as services and retained search and resume pre-qualification services for the events and meetings industry. So together, you can see why we merged together. Cadre and Meeting Jobs offers a full complement of labor resources across the hiring spectrum, from full-time planners to project-based contract planners to event staff. And you can find us at hiredcadre.com and meetingjobs.com. So a few housekeeping notes. Everyone is muted and you're not seen. So you don't need to throw in extra makeup. You don't even have to make sure you're presentable from the waist up. So we're all set there. And you're encouraged to ask questions using the Q&A area. If you're in the Zoom webinar room, we may address your questions during the program or at the end if time allows. If you're watching from the live YouTube feed, send those over to us and we'll get back to you later with questions through email or through chat. And today, this program is on a live feed in Clubhouse, a first for us. I mean, we are cutting edge. We welcome all those who are listening through Clubhouse in the Make It Happen room, and the conversation will continue after this program on Clubhouse, and we'll have more details about that later. So tune in next week when Heather Hanson O'Neill will be joining us in a conversation about breaking through the barriers to create space, opportunity, and freedom. And I want to do a special thank you and shout out to David Reederman for introducing us to Heather. So here we are today, and we've got none other than David Landgraf, who is owner and CEO of Make It Happen Management. Now, David's career kicked off in the National Security Agency as a computer system and operator, where he was granted top secret government clearances. And if we ever play the game of tell us something that we don't know about you, David and I have that thing in common. We both worked for the NSA in our career. After all, with his job at the NSA, both endeavors require many of the same skills, including a keen eye for details, strategy, innovation, and creativity. Before Making It Happen Management in 2018, David planned to manage worldwide events for Blackstone, Government of Singapore. Sorry, there was a comma in there that I missed. Blackstone, Government of Singapore, Barclays Capital, Goldman Sachs, and Arthur Andersen. I think I've known you through all those jobs.
You have.
Where he applied his unparalleled experience, access, and ability to engage people to brands. David supports and serves on several industry organizations and boards, including the Travel and Leisure, BTAB, Transformation, God's Love We Deliver, City Harvest, Alliance of Independent Meeting Professionals, MPI, and the Live Events Coalition. Make It Happen Management is a national gay and lesbian Chamber of Commerce certified LGBT business enterprise. Oh my God, it's great to have you here, David. You and I go so far back.
We do.
We could tell some stories.
So I just want to clarify for the audience, though I'm not on the board of City Harvest or God's Love We Deliver. Those are surely my organizations, because food insecurity and food is a passion, especially food waste, around our events platforms and what we give back to the community. So just for clarification there.
That's great. Okay, so let's start with this. Today is Global Meetings Industry Day. What does it mean to you? I mean, how does it tie in with what you are all about?
Well, I think, when I call it my 4 E's: excite, empower, educate, and entertain. And this is a way for our industry to be the value proposition, the strategies, the strategic voice of our industry, as well as the innovation that we bring to people, brands, and culture. And so I'm proud to be a long-term MPI Greater New York member as well, and look forward today to being at the Conrad, where we'll all convene live and in person and virtually from a hybrid perspective, just to share best practices and see what we're doing. Because I think one thing I'm really proud about is being part of this. This industry gives us a lot of support, and I think we are there for each other, and we should be there for each other in the good times and the bad times.
Yeah, when I think back at 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I first entered this industry, the even thought of having Global Meetings Industry Day wouldn't have even been there. I mean, the fact that we're at there now, and we've all been through various, oh my God, I turned this off. Why is this doing that? Sorry. The fact that our industry has shown that we've come together after 9/11, after
the 2008 financial crisis,
all those things, the AIDS epidemic, all those things, our industry is always stuck together. It's great that we're having a day for us.
Yep.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get back to those 4 E's. Let's go over them again. And why do you think those 4 E's are so important in our day and our industry?
Well, I think it's a mantra for me. It has become,
what are those E's? Let's
excite, empower, educate, and entertain. And it is something that I've constantly looked at as part of what's my purpose and what can I give back, both to my clients, to my industry colleagues. No matter what I do, one of those components always are a part of the objectives, or part of the initiative, or part of the conversation.
Okay, so we're going to skip around a little bit. When you're talking about those 4 E's, when you're talking to a potential client, or you're talking to either an internal client, because you've been both the internal client and your external client as having your own company, where do you come up with these ideas? How do you cultivate these ideas? When does it happen?
I think there's a lot of inspiration, and thankful. It's why I love New York City and the culture of New York City. It can come in a book. And I will say, I'm going to throw this one up here. You may or may not know this one. This is Amanda Gorman, The Hill We Climb, which was the inaugural speech done that she did for the presidential inauguration this past January. You get it through books, you get it through music, you get it through museums, you get it through art. And I think as long as we are aware and educate ourselves, you can then translate those into various creative options for you and your clients to tell the story and set the strategy. And so I think
that's important key. How do you set the strategy when you talk to your client? What do you say to them? How do you converse with them to find out what their objectives are, what their
it starts with that intake, and it's all about building and finding the story that impact the people, brand, and culture. So I'll sit down with is it a virtual event with a client who wants to engage their new associates or analysts for the summer? And what are your objectives? What are your challenges? What are, in today's challenge is Zoom fatigue. How many people are tired of Zoom fatigue? So what we've been doing is really trying to figure out the story, tell the story, build the relationships through live events or the content. So the things that we've been doing during this whole pandemic has been really kind of let people tell their story. Everyone has a unique story, and I want to be that person that can help you amplify, communicate, experience, to bring that connection together, because I think we all have an intrinsic need to gather and
Okay.
be and collect and connect. So I call it chill and connect.
So what I want, give me an example, and I want two examples of how you connected with the 4 E's and with the strategic versus tactical aspect with when you were when we were doing live meetings all the time. And then I want another example of how you did it when we went into the virtual mode as of last March. So first, give me a, like, oh my God, this was something that would just impress us.
Yeah. I think, first impressions are lasting ones, and lasting impressions are the last impression is the most impressionable. And I think that when you think of things that how you do events or how you can build that brand and strategy, even during breaks, during some of the coffee breaks or during the breaks, is creating network sessions where you set tables up that are topics and people want to engage in various topics at break sessions. Doing that and let people rotate, or there's all kinds of, I think, and then I did a large bat mitzvah for a client who I'm most proud of. And one of the things was she never wanted she never wanted florals in this. And I sat down with her and I said, what is your favorite book? And it was Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go. So we literally took that and started thinking about that and how we could bring to this large, client/personal event celebration where people were coming from all over the world. And we turned Oh, the Places You'll Go in the venue into an the Places You'll Go form with Dr. Seuss in balloons. And it was so beautiful. It is actually my background here is part of it, which is the people, the families came from all over the world for this event. And it was really a way for them to connect. Now, on the virtual side, the way we're connecting with people is game nights. We are doing ship to home boxes. We are doing people who magic shows who people want to connect, and it impacts you in a one-to-one, and you're really seeing it, how to break through the fourth wall and tell the client's story that way. So we're doing ship to home boxes. We are doing, you name it, wine tastings, game nights, magic concerts. I'm actually in the middle of working with a client on a large concert for a celebrity artist. Or another impactful one was a client wanted to celebrate their pride, their LGBTQ affinity network that they had internally. We brought some great talent in, none other than Peppermint, who was a RuPaul Drag Race contestant, trans, and it addressed the Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter. And we're bringing that initiative to them again. And it was a charitable component to it, so that we give to it's a game night where we give to the winner's charity of choice that represents Black Lives Matter and Black Trans Lives Matter and Asian hate issues. So it's really, it's been a real innovative open door year for us. Yeah.
In this whole transition, going from in person to virtual, how much sleep did you lose at night? I mean, it must have been just trying to figure out how to make this happen.
Well, it's a great question, because I always look at it as where I've done stuff for my prior employers, where I've been doing virtual since 2000, before 2007. Investor conferences were simulcast. And a lot of the programs were webcasting. I've done stuff for Maria Bartiromo in London and MSNBC. I was, recollecting somebody with that today, and just it's the same skill set. it is the but you're producing for television first, and then you're producing for the live in-person audience. And how planners or management or strategists, event strategists bring that together is focus on what the message is, what's the story, what's the brand, what's the people, and how are you impacting them in your programming and your messaging.
You also have said a word consistently through this last few sentences, that people who are veterans in our industry have said, we are producers, we are meeting producers, we are event producers. And I think that is a key word now, that key word of producers. We're not meeting planners, we're not managers, we're producers. And I've noticed that it just rolls off your tongue. It's automatic. It's not like you're trying to make it happen. Oh, that's the name of your company. But anyway, okay. So you've mentioned about, and a lot of people have been asking me questions throughout my career of how do I get a seat at the table, that important seat at the table. You got it. You were with some of the major financial institutions with a seat at the table. You did events for President Obama. You know, you were, I mean, how and why did you get the seat at the table? What did you do to make it happen? I'm going to use that a lot, you know, today.
I often say it. I often say, and it's funny. So to that point, make it happen has been my moniker and my reputation. It's not, and it became a brand because that was my reputation. It was always call Landgraf. He can make it happen. And to your point, I think it's how did I get to a seat at the table? One, being in the right place at the right time, aligning myself and my skill set with strategy as opposed to tactile order taking and being, you know, where can you do that? And I think that as we look at strategic meeting management policies and technology and some of the innovation that we're going through, I look at this time as the roaring 20s of innovation. This is the time for us as an industry to represent and to be the innovators of our industry, because people want to be solution oriented. People want you to be solution oriented. And I think that as you continue to innovate yourself for what is important to you and what is your priority and what is your story that you want to tell, I think that's the where you can make a difference and at your seat. And I love to have these conversations with people, and we will do this on Clubhouse. I'll do another one on these on Clubhouse on strategy setting. But again, you know, recently MPI, we participated on this, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to do that and stream it through Clubhouse. And what are the new innovations? And I'd love to open it up. What's the innovation? How are you innovating? And then what innovations are you seeing in our industry? Because
put that on chat, folks. What are you seeing? What are you innovating at? What's new?
What's new for you?
I want to go back one step, and I just want to correct you on something you said.
Yeah.
You said you happen to be at the right place at the right time. No, you were purposely at the right place at the right time. You maneuvered so that you were there. It was a purposeful happening. So just remember that it just doesn't happen.
Well, you're right, because the way I got my role at Blackstone was from a former colleague who I'm forever grateful to, who I worked with at Goldman Sachs. And she called me up and she said, there's no other person better for this role than you. And I said, I'll take a shot. And so it's a sense of community, and it's a sense of the industry that I really admire and appreciate.
And it's willing to take a risk.
Yep.
It's the willingness to take a risk. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a confrontational question. Is it different for men to get a seat at the table, or easier for men to get a seat at the table than women? Because I think women have had more of a challenge. And how would you overcome that? Or what is your feeling on that?
I believe everyone is equal, and I believe that it's about your skill set and you're innovative in the strategy. And coming from that strategy component, really, I think, look at this. We see. You look at Citigroup, you look at all of the senior women planners out there, and I applaud them. I really do. And they are making it happen. And they are really kind of innovating themselves in the strategy. And I would ask them to challenge themselves. I love to be challenged. Challenge me with a question. I love that. Point counterpoint conversations, to me, Dawn, are where things start to spark, and the creative and the strategy and the problems and the troubles and the solutions. And I want, it's to be solution oriented.
Yeah, I also think the old, again, being challenging, I've always been in that role. I've always created conflict, it seems. But anyway, but the wonderful thing about it is that traditionally, and people in our role in the meetings industry have always made it look easy, have always made it it happens. And until you make people sweat a little bit about solving the problem and having them know that you solved the problem.
Yeah.
And a prime example is that the pandemic is disastrous. It was awful for our industry. However, it also created the opportunity in our industry where all of a sudden people were looking at us and saying, how do we fix this? What do we do for meetings? What do we do for events? And for those who still kept their jobs, had the opportunity to solve the problems and bring themselves up to a higher level. And I think it's helped that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So talk about pandemic. How did so many of us had to re-engage. I did it, my company did it. So many people had to re-engage and reinvent and through the pandemic. Tell me your pandemic story or stories. We have time for a couple of stories, but I know the story that I want you to tell. So go ahead.
Well, I'm going to talk about all of the wine with friends, cocktails with a curator, and at the very beginning, because it's such an amazing skill set that we bring to the table. And all my friends were like, oh, what are we going to do? How do we do this? And I was doing them at the beginning to benefit City Harvest. They were cocktail wine tastings. And it all started, the first one was, what's in your refrigerator? Because you and I know, how many bottles of Prosecco, Cava, or Champagne have you received? And it was, open up the bottle that's in your refrigerator and let's do it. So now, then that grew into shipping boxes of charcuterie, cheese, and chocolates, along with a wine pairing and wine tasting with a master sommelier or educator, where we're leading some of that and shipping things all over the country. But I have to say, if we as planners or we as producers and managers and strategists look at the skill set and opportunity, we are great at protocol, process, procedures, right? Hospitality, service, all of those are transferable skills. And don't look at events as just events. So one of my silver linings, and I always tear up here.
I do too. And I've been with you through it.
I get choked up about it because it is, I'm proud to have worked on, it happens all the time because the stories are endless. So I'm proud to say that working on New York's most important event of our lifetime, where I was vaccinating 750 people a day, the stories that you hear, I'll never forget the first person. So for the Department of Health in New York City, working at 125 Worth Street, it's amazing to me that the first person that came up to me said to me, my father died 2 weeks ago of COVID, and I'm here today. And she broke down while I was vetting her and registration. I'll never forget that time. And I said, you know what? Your father brought you here, and this is a new road for you. And the doors are opening up for that opportunity to make change. So it is so impactful. And the stories that you hear, and I'm sorry, but we have really bringing life back to New York City. And I'm so proud of the work that our industry is doing. You know, there's people out there who are setting up vaccine centers. There's friends that I meet every Friday in Madison Square Park at 5 o'clock. So I welcome you, join us. But the vaccine center has truly made a difference. I've seen some industry colleagues who I'm in my white lab coat and my orange scarf, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I actually had a very famous chef, and for confidentiality reasons, ended up sending me a text, who I work with and do an event with every December. And Chef sent me a text afterwards, and it was so impactful of the change that we're providing to New York. And he invited me to the restaurant. He said, "You have never come into the restaurant on your own. Please be my guest. And I would like, as much as you are serving New York, I would like to serve you." I was like,
yeah, you need to set up that date. I'll get on a plane out in New York, and I'll be there with you. Anyway,
yeah,
but I also, I mean, it is wonderful, the emotional, the aspect, what we do,
yeah,
but the transferring of the skills of being a producer to seeing the logistics setup of the vaccination center must have blown your mind, because
yeah,
it was not as organized as it could have been, most likely, because they didn't hire event people to do it.
yeah.
But I'm sure that you went in there and just kind of a whirlwind set things up.
Well, it was interesting. So I was sitting there the first day I showed up on January 10th, sat there, and we were all sitting, a couple of us were sitting around the table and making sure, watching it all happen. And then all of a sudden, I see something, I just got to make it happen. And it's, you got to inject yourself into that process. So literally, I just stood up and started doing workflow management. Okay, you go there, people management, because people were aimlessly walking around themselves, and really process flow and protocols and friendliness and vetting. So when I first showed up, they were doing 250 vaccines a day. I showed up my day one. And the reason why I know this is because 29 days later, because it was Moderna, they did 750, and they needed to reamp their staff up again. So they said, "That's why you're here, and it's because you grew our numbers in one day from 250 to 750, and that made a difference." And it was a great team that we had in place. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, because again, it brings that service, hospitality, innovation, creativity, and all the skills. So I guess the lesson learned here, for everybody that's listening, is not every event is a traditional event. And in fact, the medical community calls these events. And I was shocked, actually, when I showed up. But we as an industry should look at these and your value add proposition that you bring to the table of how you can make a difference in a non-traditional event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, David, believe it or not, we have 1 minute. I need you to tell us about why Clubhouse, what it is, why it's important, it's talk about Clubhouse.
Yeah, I think in addition to what we've been doing virtually, and where we're trying to connect, and we've got a lot of people listening, and I love the point counterpoint conversation. It really allows us as a community in Clubhouse to create programming, have your voice into a new platform. You don't ever have to get dressed up. You can literally, people are on it at all hours. You find a community of industry professionals. And I really want to do a shout out to Stephen Burchard, who is literally moderating my Clubhouse room, Make Events Happen, which I've created under Clubhouse, where we'll join after this. But Stephen is moderating and feeding that into it, which we did for the MPI Greater New York event. And it is really a brainstormer. It is a collection. It is a collaboration, and it is really changing. There's a lot of, it's a brand new platform. It's been around for a year, and people are really innovating on Clubhouse. So join the discussion. I welcome you. Join my room. If you need an invitation, put it in the chat. I sent out all the invitations that I could to my room for those who requested it here. And I welcome you. And I welcome these counterpoint conversations. And let's rise to the occasion.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say, I'm looking at the chat and I'm seeing this was the most uplifting and inspiring Cadre talk we've had. So thank you, David.
Well, I want to thank you, Dawn, for the opportunity, because
we're both crying.
No, we have been longtime friends and colleagues and industry professionals. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity. And to everyone out there, again, join me in the conversation. Let's have it.
Okay. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming to today's conversation, and we'll see you next week on Thursday. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.